So I'm going to call this lecture, and we're also recording this for YouTube, so anyone who couldn't be here in person can watch after the fact. So we had a lot of people who couldn't be here, don't want to brave the cold, but want to learn about the opera, so that'll be out there as well. I call this the sound of a curse, tragedy and truth in Verdi's Rigoletto. So the curse is what holds this piece together and what kind of frames this work. And we're going to listen to excerpts as we go, but a little bit about the background of the piece. So we're going to spend time, so this is one of the most powerful and also unsettling works in the entire operatic repertoire. So Verdi was in his, this is the sum of the 2 years between 1850 and 1852, he wrote 3 of his major operas, which is an incredible amount of music written in an incredibly short amount of time. We have Il Trovatore, we have Rigoletto, and La Traviata, written within a 2-year cycle. I mean, that is an incredible output of some of the greatest music ever written in 2 years. So Verdi was in the height of his creative power, and he changed the course of how he wrote. So the previous operas were focused mostly on royalty, on gods. That was the, but Verdi pivoted to psychological drama. And that's, we're going to see that in Rigoletto. The psychological drama really forms the core of this opera. The fact that so Italy and the composer were at a turning point. Italy was not yet a unified nation. This opera premiered in Venice. So much of the country was under foreign control. And basically there were city-states. You had Venice, we had all these different areas not unified yet. And Verdi was a major figure in the Risorgimento, or the unification process. So that would become huge in his music. It was like a rallying cry. Opera became a place where ideas about power, corruption, and injustice could be explored, sometimes more boldly than in politics itself. At this point in Verdi's life, he had already known profound personal loss. He had lost his wife and his 2 young children, and that sense of grief and disillusionment profoundly shaped the music. He was no longer interested about writing opera about distant legends, exalted royalty and such, or heroic myths. Instead, he turned to real people, flawed, wounded, complicated individuals, and the consequences of their choices, and the psychological drama. You could also say that the character of Rigoletto was one of the first operatic anti-heroes. And I think that's why it makes this opera incredibly modern and so popular, is if you look at today's entertainment, anti-heroes are the rage. Tony Soprano. Who we're talking, Walter White. If you look at some of our modern media, you've got anti-heroes, kind of the core, and we love to hate these people, right? We love to hate these, sometimes they do terrible things, but we still root for them on some level. Rigoletto was quite revolutionary for its time in the fact that it portrayed, originally it was supposed to portray a king as amoral. And for a time, welcome, on in, grab a seat. For a time when the aristocratic rulers controlled the censor boards, this was highly frowned upon. The source material for this show was Victor Hugo's play, The King's Amusement, or Le Roi s'amuse, in 1832, and it was immediately banned by the French censors. Right? There was also similar censor challenges in Italy. When this piece when Verdi said he wanted to set it, 2 years of censor struggles happened. The libretto was not allowed to even be started until Verdi fought and fought and fought, and the librettists fought and fought and fought about, they had to change the location of where it takes place, so it couldn't take place in France, it took place in England. It took place in Italy. It couldn't feature a king, so it had to become a duke. So these things were constant negotiations back and forth, and Verdi fought with the censors and argued and through his intermediaries, and finally he achieved what he wanted with this story. Because the nobility is almost completely portrayed as amoral. The court is amoral. And one of the most moral characters in this opera is the assassin of all things. So it's very, in a way, topsy-turvy, as if to borrow another term. So the character of this show is the court jester Rigoletto, hunchbacked, deformed court jester who he makes his living by mocking others. He's feared and despised, and who loves his daughter, who keeps secretly. He has a daughter that he loves with terrifying intensity. The story was considered so scandalous at its times that it was heavily censored before its premiere. Yet Verdi stuck with it, and the piece was eventually allowed to be performed. I think that, of course, the unforgettable music, Verdi is one of the great tunesmiths of all time, but he combines the great melodies with deep psychological drama. Now, I'm gonna take you on a tour of this piece, and we're gonna dig in. Feel free to ask questions, feel free to stop me. I love to talk about opera, and I love to talk about these shows in particular. If you have any questions about the music making, about the characters, this show is one of the ones I think about 20 performances I've done of this opera, and I'm just delighted to talk about it. It's this one, for some reason, is so dramatic, and so the pacing is so good. When Verdi was in his prime, I just did Trovatore this year with another company, and Trovatore, even from Trovatore to Rigoletto, there's growth. Trovatore is a good show, but it's not a great show. Rigoletto is a great show. So we're going to start with the curse. There's not a long introduction to this piece. The introduction, in fact, is a minute 30 seconds. It's strangely short. He just calls it a prelude, actually, not quite an introduction. So before a single word is sung, he tells us exactly the world we're entering. This is not a heroic opening. There's no trumpet fanfares, no celebration. What we hear is tension, quiet, unsettled, and very nervous. He's planting a seed here, and he wants us uneasy from the very first seconds, because this opera is driven by one idea, and one idea alone, a curse. And once the curse is set in motion, nothing can change that. So let's listen to a little bit of this music that opens up the opera. Set the tone. Originally it was called The Curse, Il Maledizione, but they went with Rigoletto, which means giggles. That's what they call Rigoletto the jester. Why do we have a prelude in opera? I could just sit here and talk at you all day, but why do we have preludes? Why do we have things like that start the shows?
Grab your attention.
Exactly. People were talking, people were unwrapping candies. Back in the day, opera wasn't an exalted art form. It was middle-class people would go to the opera. There was the elites there as well in the boxes, but it was middle-class entertainment. So that would say, okay, that big, everyone's like, oh, it's time to watch the show. Lights dim. And back in Verdi's day, you have to place yourselves in 1851. There was no electricity. It was 3,000 candles in each opera house were lit before. It took hours to light the candles, to set the candles, and then the lights on the stage were all candles and mirrors. So it's pretty amazing when we think about these, when we go back in time and think about these pieces when they were done. So that kind of sets the tone and gets us ready. So we'll keep going. That's the whole overture. Very short, very succinct, just grabs your attention and the show starts. And that's one of the great things about Verdi. He's very economical at this time period. I'm in the middle of performing Nabucco, one of his first great masterwork that launched his career. Nabucco is much longer. The arias go much longer. They're much similar to bel canto, like Donizetti and Bellini, but the structure is not as tight. By this point, he figured out, he trimmed everything down and kept the material very, very paced, very fast. This show runs about 2 hours and 15 minutes, and it's just very, very well paced. The older shows, not as well paced, much longer, and much less character development, more formulaic, like bel canto music was back then, but we see and hear really in-depth characterization. So we have the opening tragedy, the curse, the effect of the curse. That's the effects of the curse. And now we're gonna shift gears. And this is music of the court. This is Rigoletto in his work environment. He is being the court jester. His job is to be nasty. Now the court's music, it contrasts very much with this tragic music. We have music of banality, right? Of fake elegance. So we're going to hear this very dance-like music. Let me play it while we listen. The darkness is now lifted, but it's only covered up with elegance, laughter, and luxury. It takes place in the court of the Duke of Mantua. And Verdi is showing us that society may look glamorous on the outside, but underneath, it's rotten. Because everyone here gains their amusement at the expense of others. The Duke treats women as disposable objects. He's the ultimate libertine. Okay, similar to Don Giovanni in a way. And we have, he's in the process of seducing one of his courtier's wife in this opening scene. It's part of what's going on. And Rigoletto is mocking them. He's always mocking. And the courtiers hate him. But it's part of the show. So we've got this dance music which infects the whole thing of what's going on. And it starts. We're going to listen to a little bit about the Duke. The Duke is giving the most charming music in the world. La donna immobile, which we'll listen to in a few minutes. And this is sung by the great Luciano Pavarotti, one of my favorite Dukes of all time. But one of the greats. But his music is effortlessly effervescent and melodic. So let's listen to his first aria, which comes in right after that. Here's Questo Quella. These are melodies you can sing immediately. You'll walk out of the opera house singing, humming, tapping. Everything he sings is like that. Always almost dance rhythms, right, to keep us. He's endlessly effervescent and immediately appealing. And Verdi sets us up with that expectation. He's handsome, he's beloved by everybody, he's the ultimate ladies' man, and he's completely amoral in this show. All right, that's just you know that from from the beginning. Everything he does is at the expense of others. He doesn't care about his court. He's always out there, and I think that's another part of why this piece is this undermining of the aristocracy was pretty shocking in his time. We see the entrance of Monterone, one of the bass, and Monterone comes barging in the court despite all this drama, and he's the one who delivers the curse. He delivers the curse not to Rigoletto originally, but to the Duke. But for some reason it lands on Rigoletto, and it hits Rigoletto very hard. Okay, so he comes on, Rigoletto seduced his daughter and dishonored his daughter, and he comes on to petition the Duke, and he's screaming and yelling, and he gets arrested. But when he comes on and Rigoletto sits in the Duke's chair and says, he pretends to be the Duke and says, please tell me everything that's going on, and he insults him very deeply. So let's listen to some of this music from Monterone. It wouldn't be opera, if the chorus didn't repeat the names of the major characters, reinforce Monterone or Mio Padre, it happens in every opera. It's just part of the operatic tradition. It's something that Gilbert and Sullivan used to make fun of quite a lot in their operettas. And light opera, of course, does a lot of operettas as well. But I just love that. Operetta has always been like a form of kind of like poking fun at grand opera, and it's been going on as long as there's been both art forms. So we'll keep listening. Monterone. My voice sounds like thunder, timpani. And Rigoletto comes. He goes, come and speak. Everyone thinks that's very funny, to laugh at the father's grief. Rigoletto's music is always kind of volatile, disformed. It's just incredibly emotionally outburst. He's deeply insecure underneath the bravado and his courtly appearance. When you're going to hear his aria later, you get a lot of that. This is Rigoletto toying with Monterone. He's being funny, the trill. And here's the father's rage. Here comes the curse. The Duke says, arrest him. I curse you. Now he's gone too far. You've sicked the dogs on a dying lion, Lisa. I love that. Here's the curse. The chorus plays a very important, the men's chorus plays a very important role in this too. The courtiers are now deeply insulted and he's being pulled off to jail. And, but while the courtiers are enraged and their honors, they're going to see justice done to this man, Rigoletto sits there, he feels the weight of the curse. Okay, so that's going to be really important. Quel vecchio maladirvi. He says that over and over again in this opera, and we're going to hear that in a few minutes. So the men's chorus is, they have an important role in a couple of the big scenes, so we're going to hear from them again. So right off the bat, we have this dramatic music. You've got the background of the court. There's a lot of dance music in the court to get this fake banality, and then we've got this the drama playing out. Now we're going to meet some more characters. After this act ends, we go from the court to like a back alley at night. And we're going to meet Sparafucil, who is the assassin. Note the really awesome orchestration here. Verdi takes the violins out, darkening the orchestra, only uses the dark parts of the orchestra. As a conductor, I love to, Verdi was one of the first composers, I think, to really make character alive. Well, bel cantos did this somewhat, but Verdi in a much bigger way, who's going to affect composers like Puccini in the next generation, to make the orchestration match the dramatic situation to a much deeper degree. He says, "The old man cursed me." He says that over and over again. Quel vecchio malediva me. This is a very unusual piece of music. It's a duet for a baritone and a bass. You don't hear it, it's unusual. You see them sometimes, like in Don Giovanni and Mozart, but it's unusual. Usually, that's an unusual pairing of voices. When I cast, I have to find voices that don't sound too much the same. I want a much brighter baritone and a much darker bass. Cursed me. Diminished chord. And the entrance of the proud assassin. The man playing the assassin role, we just worked together in Carmen last weekend. His name is Valerian Ruminsky. He sung at the Met quite a lot and is quite an exciting, real true basso. He's selling his service as a swordsman. Are you a thief? No, man of the sword. Arguably, he's the most honest of any of the characters except Gilda. And his music's quite proud. He explains how he does his field. I'm going to play the end, and this is a little bit of characterization. So that's the basic high note. They call it a basso cantante. It's very different than a basso profondo, who only sings low notes. A basso cantante also has to be able to sing the upper part of the register too, like and he's also got to have the low F that's to come. One of the great bass rolls in all of opera. It's got that low F there at the bottom. So now, after the assassin leaves, we get to meet Rigoletto as he actually is. Not the bravado of the court, the jester, the clown, but now you see the irony of the opera. The man who laughs at everyone else's pain is suddenly terrified that the curse might apply to him. We're going to see his pain and uncertainty. He isn't a traditional operatic hero. He's bitter, sarcastic, and afraid. And for the first time, Verdi lets us in his mind. No audience, no court, just a man alone with his thoughts. And this is his first soliloquy. One of the hardest roles of any baritone roles is Rigoletto. It's one of the most demanding. Similar to the Madama Butterfly, Cha-Cha-san, is one of the hardest roles for a soprano. This is one of the absolute tour de forces for a male baritone. He cursed me. Over and over again he says it. laugh. That he's got to be such a terrible person himself. So he's conflicted about this. Who's seen the show before? Who's seen Rigoletto in the theater? A couple of us? Oh, good. You're going to love it. It's going to be one of those shows. Once you see it, my son, who's doing the videography for this, it's his favorite opera. He's seen it conducted a bunch. But it's
definitely my
so
favorite.
The Duke calls me, I have to make him laugh. Damnation. Here's what his secret he's hiding. You're told by the court, they find out, they think that Rigoletto has a lover, but really what they said is his daughter. So they discover that he's got a lover. You're going to meet his daughter, who he fiercely defends and nobody knows exists. And that's what he's trying to do, is shield her from the immorality of the court. The curse. Diminished chord. Now we meet the daughter. Big high note. So in operatic, she's going to say, "Figlio, my dad, mio padre, my father." So this is typical of Verdi. So that's typical of this style, but introduces who they are. The musicality, he turns into a different person when his daughter's on. He fiercely defends her. He kind of locks her away, and she's only allowed to go to church. And she's got a maid, Giovanna, who is there, who oversees her. The father is always saying, "Has anyone come?" He's a very way overprotective. Let's put it that way. And he tries, however he can, to shield her from what his day job. But ultimately, that's not to be. So she's been going to church where she met a very charming, who she thinks is a student, who's actually the Duke. The Duke's out there patrolling, dressed as a commoner, looking for the next conquest, and he meets this beautiful girl and he's in love with her. So she thinks he's the student, Gautier Maldet. Meanwhile, it's actually the Duke. And she sings this aria, one of the most famous coloratura arias in all of the opera, Caro Nome. Okay? And that name, Gautier Maldet, is going to change her life. So she's just discovering her emotional side. She's discovering love for the first time, where she thinks, and she's in love with this. Her music is innocence personified. He uses the light instruments of the orchestra, like the flute, lots of flutes and very light woodwinds. And with Rigoletto, it's a lot of tremolo and a lot of brass and a lot of timpani. But here it's going to be the much lighter, more transparent instruments of the orchestra. So while the father, he goes off stage and he instructs that no one's to get in, the Duke has bribed Giovanna the maid and let the Duke in. All right, so we don't know if she knows who he is, depends on how the director stages it, but now the Duke's in, disguised as a poor student, and he sings his love for her, and he sings some of the most charming music. You'll hear this aria. One of the most interesting Verdi roles is the Duke. The Duke sits very, very high. And we call it tessitura, is the average range of the voice. It's very high for the Duke. It sits on high Bs, there's no Cs in this role. There's a couple interpolated high D naturals which can be sung, but often are not. But the role itself sits in the passaggio. Do we have any singers in the group? people who love to sing. If you don't, if I use words you don't understand, stop me and say, because I deal with singers for a living. But passaggio is the average. It's like at the point of the voice where it changes and you go into your head register. And it's one of the hardest places to be as a singer. And a singer's quality is matched by how they negotiate the passaggio and go into their upper register. So when you go see opera singers, you're going to hear it like it's like the vocal Olympics, right? It's singers who've trained their whole lives to do this. And the Duke is one of those roles where it's, as a conductor, my job is to feel the singer's larynx. And my job is to make their lives easier. And I also pace the show, of course, and keep the tempo and all that. But my job is to pace it and make it exciting. I draw the energy out of the singers. But I also have to watch the singers for cues, how long they hold high notes. There's an unspoken communication back and forth. And with this particular role, it is so high, and it sits high for a long period of time. It's a stamina issue. So I'm always kind of feeling what they're doing. This role just sits up there, as you're going to hear. This is the Duke once again, singing charming. He's professing his love for this young lady. It goes up and up and up, as you're going to hear. It's going up, going up. Just when you thought it was over, nope, he's going to do it again. Just keeps going. So you're going to hear that from the Duke over and over again, this kind of like a rising, ascending passion. This is Cheryl Stu, the American soprano, and Luciano Pavarotti, the tenor in this recording. Again! This is something to hear. The Duke's character has got this just exalted passion up to the tessitura, up to the top into the head voice, and you're going to hear that again with some of the more famous arias that are coming. Now here's a soprano. He's now left, and now she's alone, reflecting on this love that she feels for this poor student. She thinks his name is Gautier Maldet. Tender, transparent instruments portray the voice beautifully. Her young heart, and also the coloratura, the fast-moving notes, and the range that she's going to sing also displays her innocence. We call this the soprano national anthem. When I do auditions, I hear this a lot. When a soprano wants to display both their range and their flexibility, this is one of those pieces. I'm going to fast forward to the end of the aria. Oop, that's the real end of the aria. call that a cadenza. At the end of the aria is often a cadenza. It's a chance for the singer to show off their flexibility. Back in the Baroque period, they were improvised. By this period, it's all written down. And this is trained into them. Some of them are slightly different, but it's pretty standardized today. Now, what's going to happen here? You're going to hear this. We had a rehearsal right in this very room yesterday with the professional chorus and with the secondary roles, the comprimario roles, and we ran the staging. And this is where the men's chorus, they found out where Rigoletto lives, and they found out the courtiers have decided they're going to go kidnap his lover and bring her to the palace. So now they're there to kidnap his lover, and that's the men's chorus you're going to hear in the background here. She's still thinking about this young man. And the men are sneaking in the back. There she is. My mother's called 4 times. You can give her a buzz back. That'd be helpful. All right, so now we have this men's chorus on. They're going to sing I'll just play a little bit of their music. They're going to creeping around, and they're going to go kidnap her. There's a ti-ti, ti-ti, oh, this is a very famous chorus part that everyone loves to sing. Where is ti-ti? Audiences love men's choruses singing fast words. It's funny, it's comedic, and the operetta uses it as well. So it's universally fun. Can't get too loud. Where operetta, and I love operetta. I love conducting operetta. I love conducting operetta equally as much. It's just two sides of the same coin to me, and it's just great music. And operetta loves to take great men's choruses and great choruses, add them as well. And often they love to make fun of the plots of the grand operas. Sometimes they don't make a whole lot of sense. This one's not as bad as Trovatore, which is even wackier of a plot, but this plot makes a little more sense. So they find Rigoletto, and it's very dark, and Rigoletto helps them. They said he's going to go kidnap Count Ceprano's wife. And it's, okay, so they bring him along, and they blindfold him. But they spin him around, he gets kind of confused, and he's standing there holding the ladder while they go kidnap his daughter. So that's how, it's kind of silly for sure, but it makes for some great music. So I'll play you some of that. So it's after this. I'll fast forward to the end of this. There are so many hits in this show. This is one of the hits. Verdi is one of the great composers for the chorus. Chorus always has a pivotal role in Verdi operas. In the bel canto period, chorus is often like wallpaper, cardboard cutouts. Here, it's like a central character. Now they're sneaking with the ladder. He's blindfolded, he's holding the ladder. They grab her, take her out, and she's being driven away. Finally, Rigoletto realizes, hold on, what's going on here? Why, here we go. She sings, "Help me, Father." They sing, "We've won. Help me." Hold on, I'm wearing a blindfold. This is the end of the act. The curse. The thing about Verdi, he knows how to end an act. He makes you want to come back because it's so exciting. So when he ends an act, it's always going to be very, very exciting, very thrilling. So Act 2, now he realized that the curse is landed home. So now he goes back to the Duke's palace to see if he can find his daughter. Right? So the Duke starts Act 2 with an aria singing. He finds out that his lover, the girl he loves, has been kidnapped and she's gone. He has no idea who took her, and he's angry about that. And he sings a beautiful aria about her. And now, after the aria, the courtiers come on and say, "Duke, we've found Rigoletto's lover and we brought her here." So I'll play that. And then he sings a very famous. There's a tradition in opera called, you've got cavatina, which is a slow aria, and cabaletta, which is a fast, virtuosic part of the aria that comes after. So this is the cabaletta, the flashy part that comes after. The men run on stage. We found Rigoletto's lover. Where? And here's that aria. The Duke again being the Duke, singing dashing, effortless music that you're going to love. Up in the stratosphere. On this recording, Pavarotti takes a high D at the end. It's almost never done in performance, though. It's greatly recorded. He can do it all in one day. That's it. Once again, the chorus is a major part of this. Now that high note is optional; it's not written in the score. So some composers, some famous conductors who conduct Verdi, like Claudio Abbado, or and there's a couple. They call it come scritto, and you're only allowed to sing what's in the score. That's an interpolated high note. It's not in the score, but boy, is it exciting when you hear someone do something like that. And often singers do that, and it's up to me as a conductor. So do I allow that? Is it too much? You know, it can be too much. You know, but in that case, if he sang like that, I would say, go ahead. That's exciting. Nathan Snyder, who's our Duke, who he's from Colorado, wonderful rising star tenor who's singing all over the place. We'll hear him. He's got great high notes, and I don't know if he's taking a D though. I haven't asked him yet, but we'll find out very soon. All right, so now we have the Duke runs off the stage to see Gilda, who's now in his chambers. That's not good. All right, so I'll leave that to your imagination. Rigoletto comes on looking for her, and this is music that is funny on the outside, but belies great tragedy and pain on the inside. You'll hear it in his voice. And a good baritone will be able to you'll be able to hear both sides of it. He's pretending to be the jester. He's got his jester's staff thing, and he's looking, searching. And the courtiers think this is hysterical. Poor Rigoletto. No. Fake music. See? Quiet. Let's see what he does. Oh, buongiorno, Rigoletto. How's the buffoon? He says, you're more boring than usual. How are you today? Sottovoce. The role of Rigoletto has to be played by someone who's a really good actor. And the one who's singing it for us is someone I've done this role with a bunch of times, and who's really a spectacular actor. Michael Nansel has sung musical theater and opera. He's actually a fantastic Verdi baritone, but he's also done lots and lots of opera, operetta. I don't think there's anything he cannot sing. He's one of those type of actors, but he's really tall and very exciting, very physical, but he's always, whenever we talk, we spend a lot of time on the road. He's always talking about the character. And he brings, more than most opera singers I've worked with, he's much more character-driven than a lot of the singers who are much more vocally driven. With opera, it's always got to be some combination of the two. You have to have great technique to be able to get through these roles. You have to be a really great singer, and you have to know your instrument really well. But then you've got to have the acting chops on top of it. And somewhere, actors, it's usually a combination of the two. So that's always the conversation, is did the acting move you? Did the singing move you? How did they integrate? And that's what makes opera such a unique and dramatic art form. We'll go on. So we have this cat and mouse game back and forth. And then finally he finds out that, yes, she's here, and he's not my lover, it's my daughter. And he has a huge outburst, and then he rages his fist, and he's gonna attack everyone, and eventually he's subdued, brought down low, and he sings this aria of plead. And this is one of the great moments of any Verdi baritone. This is Cortigiani vil razza di nato, you're a pit of vipers. Courtesans, you're a pit of vipers. It's got very exciting string writing. The strings, very challenging. Begging, please let me through. Now he turns to pleading. He's begging one of the courtiers, Marullo, on his knees, begging this man. He's ignoring him. What's very typical of Verdi, and what makes him a genius, he does this a lot in his operas, he finds a solo instrument to pair with the mood of the soloist. In this case, it's going to be a solo cello, and it's a really exposed, very difficult line along with the baritone. So listen for that. And here's your solo cello. You can listen to this, you'll hear this very soon, but this is one of the great moments of the show, is this aria. He sings it on his knees, pleading, even harder to do. All right, and more and more opera directors are staging like some of these roles, like the sopranos are often singing lying down, have to sing high D's, almost unhuman levels of vocalism while they're laying down. So often these are conversations I have with directors. As a conductor, I've got to make sure that the singers are their best, and we go back and forth with these conversations. And sometimes they're facing the wrong direction, or because what many directors come from the musical theater tradition where there's microphones. Opera does not use microphones. So singers are purely acoustic. And to sing this with an orchestra, you have to really make a lot of sound. And if you're upstage, if you're back, your sound gets absorbed. So often it helps to bring the singers downstage, center, and so they put their voices this way, and they're louder. If they're singing this way, they're going to be much softer. So these are considerations. With a microphone, it doesn't matter because the speakers do the job for you. But in opera, they have to do it all themselves. So now, after he begs and pleads, finally, Gilda comes running out. He's like, was it a joke? Nope, it wasn't a joke. She's been dishonored, and he vows vengeance. Okay, this is some great vengeance music. It ends this act. Here is the vengeance music. She sings an aria, and paired with an oboe, it's very, very mournful and beautiful. He's vowing vengeance. That ha 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 is anger. I will be the thunder of vengeance. Right before this, the guy Monterone is being led off to his death, to be executed. And he goes, "Old man, I will avenge you." And then he sings this. So the old man is, Monterone is like, "I see my curse has completely done nothing." And he walks off to his death. He goes, "Old man, I will be your curse." And we have this great music. Now Gilda, the daughter, she's going to beg, "Don't, father, don't. I love him. He'll hear none of it. Vengeance." Here's also some of the joy of Verdi. The music is always so upbeat and beautiful and tuneful that it kind of belies the intensity of the situation. It's very easy to kind of get lost into the dance rhythms and kind of get lost in that, but that's what makes it so enduringly popular. This is how Verdi ends an act. It's coming. It's going to build up and ramp up. why the opera is called Rigoletto. He sings high A flats like they're going out of style. Very, very difficult. That's the end of the act. Intermission happens there. And now Act 3 is at the assassin's house. The way the assassin Sparafuccio works is he distracts his quarry with his beautiful sister who distracts them. Right? So she's part of the assassination. Rigoletto has hired the assassin, and there's a whole negotiation scene. It's 20 scudi. So he's got to pay up rent and 20 scudi after it's done. So he pays the assassin to kill the Duke. The Duke comes because he's in love with his sister, of course. He's on to his next triumph. And the Count goes to see her, and he sings this aria, which I'm sure you know. Right? Everything the Count sings, the Duke sings, is this. So a little bit about this aria. It wasn't given to the orchestra until the day of the premiere. Verdi did not want the music being leaked, because as soon as it was premiered, everyone would be singing it, and all the organ grinders would be singing it in town. It would have been released early, and he didn't want that. Even in 1851, they were worried about this stuff. So he didn't give it until the day of the premiere, and it didn't get released to the orchestra. So it wasn't rehearsed until that morning. So that piece is kind of, he knew it was such a tuneful song. It ends with a big high B, and it's super, super famous. And now I think the greatest music of this show is about to start. Here is Verdi in his absolute mastery. You have 4 different characters on the stage. You've got Sparafuccio, the bass. You've got Rigoletto, the baritone. You've got Maddalena, the mezzo-soprano, the sister of the assassin. And you've got Gilda. Gilda and Gilda and Rigoletto are off stage in the nighttime lighting. And in the house, you've got the Duke, and you've got Maddalena in this quartet singing. And you've got each 4 different characters, 4 different moods going on at once. And each carefully sculpted and crafted based on their character, but all coming together to create one of the greatest quartets ever written in any opera or any piece of music. The Rigoletto Quartet in Act 3 is one of the masterpieces of the art form. It's called Bella figlia dell'amore, and the Duke is just doing what the Duke does, ascending to the stratosphere, trying to woo the mezzo. The mezzo is, flirting with him. Gilda's off stage weeping and crying. She's singing fast things like this, and you've got Rigoletto telling her, no, this is not going to happen. So let's listen to some of this great music. Dashing as always. Here's one of those things, up to the stratosphere. Well, we add the rest. Rigoletto. Quiet, quiet. I'll let you explore this when you hear it, but it's one of those moments. It's some of the most beautiful music ever written, and the characterization is like none other, and it just works. It just I love it. I can't speak enough about how exciting this music is. There's so much hits in this piece. I'd say the only opera with more hits per square inch, or square page of score, is Carmen. Has maybe more melodies that are famous, but this one is much shorter, much more condensed. So now this finishes up. The Count falls asleep, and guess what? Maddalena's now in love with the Count, and she begs her brother not to kill this man. Kill the hunchback instead. The assassin says, no, I'm a man of honor. I don't just kill people. I've been paid to do a job. I'm going to do a job. He's a noble assassin. So we have this argument going back and forth. And in the midst of this, there's a storm going on. And there's a whole history of storms in opera, but this is a really good one. And during this storm, you hear it first far away, you hear in the cello and the basses, and that's the rumbling of the thunder, and you've got lightning in the flutes, and you've got this kind of storm effect happening while things are going on. And then it gets more and more and it ramps up. So during the storm, they said, what if someone comes to the door? I'll kill the first person who knocks on the door. So Gilda, hearing this, says, I'm going to sacrifice myself for the man I love. I'm not going to let her kill the Count. So she knocks on the door, and they say, who is it? It's a poor beggar who's lost, and I can't say, so they just they open the door, they stab Gilda. It's pretty terrible. But we'll listen to this music, as only Verdi can. The Duke goes to sleep. There's your storm. And that's the wind. The men's chorus is the wind. Pay me the money, 20 scudi. I'm going to skip a little bit to find the... She's now in love with this man. Please save this beautiful young man. Here's her. I'm going to skip. I'm a man of honor. I don't just take people's money. The wind outside, the men's chorus off stage. That's Gilda off stage. What's going to happen? Please, my brother. She knocks on the door. I'm a poor beggar. Open the door. door, she gets murdered, she gets stabbed, and so on and so forth. And it's very dramatic. There's thunder, lightning, all this stuff's going on during this raging storm, and it creates maximum drama. And after this, Rigoletto comes to collect the body of the assassined Duke. So he comes and he gets given a bag, and he drags the bag out there thinking it's the Duke. Then he hears, La donna immobile. The Duke is singing inside, and he's like, that voice, is it a ghost? Is it a spirit? No. He opens the bag, and there's his daughter. And in typical opera fashion, she's going to sing a few more high notes because that's what we do in opera. We sing even after we've been stabbed. And then the piece ends with Rigoletto saying, the curse. He's recognized the curse. Let's listen to the very end. He gets one more very big, very high note to end the opera. We'll go to the very end of this, and we'll bring it full circle and take some questions. For someone who's been stabbed through the diaphragm. Finally, he realizes what the curse has meant. So that is a roundabout kind of just some general, some of the greatest hits, some of the great melodies you're going to hear, and some of the characterization that makes it work. There's great connectors in Verdi. It's always excitement. It's always filled with drama and passion. And the more you dig into the music, the more you hear it, the more you kind of get into it, the more you'll hear how brilliant he is at creating melody, but melody that enhances drama, especially the psychological drama. You'll find that as time went on, opera composers were trying to be more authentic with human emotion. And that kept going, especially with the next generation with Puccini, and even people after Puccini with verismo, which means truth and realism. There's always that search for how can we be more realistic with our feelings and get those into the music. You'll hear things like dun, 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 that are coming back, melodies you've heard before returning, like that maledizione idea comes back multiple times, and that even anticipates Wagner, who would come on later and put more, he'd put little snippets of melodic fragments in music and make that like tell the story. The melodic fragments in the orchestra would tell the story as much as the actors on the stage. So we see that happen in opera, and it's really exciting to see Verdi's like full maturity here. He's still a young composer, but a fully mature composer writing dramatic masterworks. Well, get another snack, please. Introduce yourselves. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you all at the opera.